Hi, everyone. I'm Steve here again with Brian. Welcome, Brian.
How's it going today?
Oh, look how happy he is. Because
I'm a happy guy, Steve.
we're going to talk about TRT. And it's something I talk about a lot. It's something that I openly discuss. I am on testosterone replacement therapy. You guys, listen to this interview. Don't just turn it off. Put your comments, your questions in the comment section, because this is something that gets overlooked. And we were talking right before we got on, Brian, and we were talking about how the average 60-year-old, which is my age, is on 12 medications. And why aren't people worried about all those medications that they're taking instead of getting their hormones right? So I know you just started, and we're just going to kind of take this as maybe a little mini series because it's been amazing for you. So just let us know how you want to start from the beginning, or where do you want to start with this? And you guys, like I said, make sure you listen to this all the way through, because you're going to get some potential encouragement and maybe a testimony of something that could help you too. So I just want to encourage you to listen to this. So go ahead, Brian.
Hey, I'm going to start at the beginning, Steve, because for me, this is a journey, and I took a very different path. I'm not getting into TRT now because it's popular. I've been looking at this, oh, good gosh, for years. My biggest thing was I was scared of it. It's just the way it was. And I did all my own research. I looked at it. I'm going to be looking at, I was testing my testosterone 5-6 years ago, trying to see where my levels were at, trying to figure out why in life. So let's go back before I started really looking into these things. Retired man of uniform. I was a career uniform guy, did a career in law enforcement. Before that, I was in the military. Living a hypervigilant lifestyle, lots of stress on the hearts and lungs, saw a lot of things. During that time frame, I didn't always cope very well, and I got into drinking a lot and things like that, which I had to put to the side later on in life. And I started making changes. And this was probably about 10 years ago. I started figuring out, hey, we got to do things a little bit differently. At that time, I was probably taking 6-7 different prescriptions just to manage my body, manage my blood pressure, my cholesterol, and more importantly, my anxiety and depression, my ups and downs. Got out of law enforcement, and I talked to my doctor, who I still work with now, and said, I want off the medicines. I want to be healthy. So we started that journey, speeded up a little bit, got off of almost all the prescriptions except my anxiety prescription, because it was the hardest thing for me to control. And over the last 8 years, I started working in the fitness industry, working for Steve, for those of you who don't know, not only here, but at their other club, at the Parkway Club in Reno. I've been very, very interested in finding what it takes to balance my body. And I'm really trying to look at different options and different avenues, which came to where I am today. I still hold a prescription that is to work with my anxiety, but I don't take it anymore, and I don't have to. I stopped taking it a little over a year ago, learning to cope with it. And I still had the problem, but I would just try to find different ways to manage it. And so TRT for me became the search to relieve me of the heaviness of my day. It became my search to get rid of the anxiety and the depression and move forward. And I had started reading that in other people's testimony, if you will, about what it does, that this was a possibility. So I really took it serious. Now, this past fall, I met with my doctor and my age management doctor. I'm using both of them. My personal doctor's been with me for a long time. He's actually the one that helped me get off most medications. Met with both of them. My personal doctor said, yes, TRT is not a bad idea. He said, however, if your TRT levels are over 500, I want you to hold off until we really look at this. So I went through the entire blood panel with my personal doctor, and we realized that my testosterone was extremely low, and it was floating around the 300 or just above 300 in the score, if you will. I in turn took all my bloods to an age management professional out of Reno. And if you want to know who it is, shoot us a message. I'll let you know who I'm using through the comments. I'll get back to you. That doctor then took it a step further. He asked me, what do you want to do? And I said, I'm tired of anxiety and depression. I want it to go away. I don't want to take drugs. I want to try to do it in a different way. And I heard testosterone can help me get there. And I said, I am heavy because I'm a power lifter. I want to cut weight, and hopefully that can help as well. So we started a program. We did every physical thing you could think of in all my bloods. We tested everything, my bloods, my urine, you name it, to make sure that I'm healthy, and I was healthy enough to start this program. Both my doctor and my age management doctor are involved together. They share the information. I send all tests to both of them. I went through a DECA scan to validate whether or not my body weight was at a certain level, because my BMI is odd. I'm 5'8" on a good day, probably 5'7" on a bad day. So my BMI is crazy. My BMI puts me at morbidly obese, which isn't the case when it comes to my overall fat load. But we had to find out where it is. So I went through a DECA scan with the age management doctor. They scanned my whole body. I now know exactly where it is, and I'm not guessing. I know where all my blood levels are. I'm no longer guessing. My doctor also put me through, the age management doctor also provided me with the opportunity to get a heart screen through calcium measurements. I believe it's called, and let me look at my notes, AGSON score, AGATSON, or however you say. I now know I'm a low single-digit score there, so my heart looks good. I'm not guessing anymore. So the other part to this is, okay, so how do we get rid of this angst? Steve, I get a little emotional when I'm thinking about these things, because everything I was trying to do has happened in the last 3 weeks. 3 weeks ago, I found...
You know what, Brian? Because it's life-changing. That's why it's so impactful, and I want people to know, and that's why I want them to listen to this, because this can change lives, and it's something so simple that people are afraid of and doctors are afraid of. But it's emotional because it's life-changing, and something, 10, 20, 30 years of, you could call it suffering in certain ways, to change that in your life over something so simple. Yeah, it's emotional.
It changed in 12 hours, everybody. 12 hours. This is the difference. I got all my measurements done, got all my prescriptions done through the new age management doctor, again, sharing everything with my general practitioner, and began a testosterone program. Also an extreme program of vitamins and supplements that are not, they're over the counter. You can just buy them through Amazon or wherever. I went to take my first shot of testosterone, and I was down here at the gym, and I was actually talking to you, Steve. We were working on some videos, and I was scared. And pardon my language, I was scared shitless. I was horrified of this stuff because of all the stuff I had heard about it, being in the industry, and then, being an athlete and weightlifting my entire life. I was scared of these things. Even though I knew about them, I didn't really look into it. Now that I'm seriously looking into it, I no longer have the fear. But I will tell you, my very first intramuscular injection with a number 23 needle was one of the scariest things I have ever done in my life. But I watched so many videos that I knew once I get my syringe loaded, once I have to get it done, I got to get this done. So I stood in my mirror, and I went into I remember it like anything. I went into my upper right buttocks, into the upper outside quadrant, injected it, and I didn't feel anything. And I looked down to make sure, is that thing even in there? And I'm looking in the mirror going, oh my gosh, it's in there. And I pulled it back a little bit to make sure I wasn't in the vein or nothing. And I go, this really works. And so I injected the stuff and the testosterone, and I pulled it out, and then I put it in my sharps container, and I stood there in the mirror and I started laughing because I was so afraid that my hands were shaking. And I'm like, why are you such a baby about this? But it was in my head. I can tell you I'm in week 3, so I'm on my 3rd week of dosage. And once I broke that ice, it is not an issue. And I'm alternating my shots right side to left side. I don't want to go into my quads. I don't want to go into my shoulders. I'm just going to stay with upper outside quadrant glute, right side, left side, switch it out, and to not develop any scarring. But I went in, and there was one key thing I wanted from both doctors, and the reason why they supported me in my journey, and why my wife, who's 100% informed on all of this, supported me in this journey. I wanted the anxiety to go away. I wanted to live a life with my family, those I care about, and the people that I serve in this community, whether it's through coaching or the other side jobs that I do. I wanted to live it without the heaviness of yesterday weighing me down. And guess what happened? I took that shot, and I kid you not, within 12 hours, the weight of the world went away. I can't explain it. I was telling myself, this isn't possible. This can't happen. How did this happen? It was so uplifting, I couldn't sit down, I swear, for 3 days. I was on the move. It wasn't a big change to where I came back to the gym and was benching 500. That's not going to happen. I'm beyond that. But it was such a powerful change in my ability to breathe cleanly for that day. I can't explain it. You have to experience it. It's going to be a life changer for the rest of my life, I believe. Just because of that, I have success. And if all I ever get out of it is this last 3 weeks, it's worth every minute I've invested in it, because I no longer have the heaviness of yesterday weighing upon my spirit, heart, mind, body, and soul. I recommend this to everybody, Steve.
Yeah, I appreciate your input and your honesty with all this. And people, it's like, are you, if you're experiencing these types of symptoms, but being in the military or whatever, are you going to get these kind of results? Maybe. Again, you hear us say all the time, everyone is different.
It is different for everybody. And I have a lot of associates that are also TRT users. They don't necessarily have the same reaction. And I got a friend, he's 9 weeks into his program. He's just now sensing this. I'm 3 weeks in, and I'm a golden boy right now with the feeling. It's going to be different for everyone.
Yeah. And if you have brain fog, a lack of energy, the sexual symptoms are obvious, low libido and unable to perform, all that stuff. Those things are easy to realize, okay, that's a symptom of low testosterone. Does that mean that's what it is? Maybe not. We're not doctors. But all these things, sometimes it is testosterone. And everyone, as you've heard me say many times on these videos, get your testosterone checked if you're having any symptoms. And it's not about, being swole and, the biggest, strongest guy in the gym. It's not about that. It's about functioning. And we talked about this before we got on camera too. It's about quality of life. Quality of life. That's what we want, a better quality of life. And testosterone can be a problem. And again, I'm not a doctor, but the doctors I talk to about this is, it can be heart issues. Low testosterone, you're at risk for cardiovascular disease. So get off the 12 medications. If you're my age or younger, get off the 12, or if you're older, talk to your doctor about getting off the 12 medications or whatever you're on, and go for something that could be the root or the source of the problem.
And I don't recommend this for everyone either, Steve. I mean, you do need to do your research. And I do challenge everybody, if you decide to go this route, talk to your personal doctor. Now, it is my opinion that personal doctors tend to follow insurance guidelines, and your testosterone, unless you're at an extremely deathly low level and you're in the 200s and 100s, they probably won't have anything where your insurance is going to cover it. So there is some cost with this. I am spending the extra money to work with these doctors so that I have a complete understanding. I'm not doing this by myself, but I recommend that you do share everything with your doctor. Don't hide this. Share it with your significant others. Don't hide this. This is no longer taboo, everybody. Now, the difference is too, and Steve said something that's really, really important. I'm not going into this trying to get swole. I'm 55 years old. I don't have to lift 700 pounds. I'm not going to go on a stage. So there's no steroid usage with me. I'm not using human growth hormone. I'm not trying to go that route. I never have, and I won't. However, my choice is testosterone, and I'm telling you right now, 12 hours changed my life.
Yeah, and the last thing that I would add to that is the reason it's not a steroid cycle is, first of all, usually it's testosterone cypionate when you're looking at injections. There's creams.
That's what I'm using, testosterone cypionate.
Other types of things, and that's what I use also is cypionate. But what you're doing is you're replacing the testosterone that is missing, because it was here and now you're missing the normal amount, so you're replacing it. So that's what TRT really is, testosterone replacement therapy. It was here. Now it's here for whatever reason. I'm replacing what I lost. That's all you're doing. It's not a steroid cycle. It's a replacement therapy. So any last words, Brian?
No, what I was going to say is if you want to keep this very personal and to yourself, because a lot of people do, and I think that's okay. You can go online, and there are several clinics across. They're good clinics. There's nothing wrong with them that you can work with. You're going to need to provide your bloods. So you generally with those clinics, I'm going to say 3 to 6 months. The blood has to be within your results have to be within 3 to 6 months, and there's a lot of them. So make sure you contact them and ask them the questions. Also, what I've learned is there's somewhat of a shortage. So you want to make sure that you are paying attention to where you can get your prescriptions filled. I'm using local pharmacy here in our city. I don't have a problem getting it. And my cost in our town is probably, it's going to run me for my testosterone, I'm going to say roughly $100 a month, maybe a little more depending on which pharmacy I go to, which can be expensive. I get it. But for those of you that can't afford it, it's worth every penny. You're going to pay more in the black market. Use your doctors.
Yeah, and we don't recommend that for sure.
No.
That self medication, I guess you could call it. But
right.
There is a lot of I'm not the expert on this. I mean, I know a lot because of just my professional background and my career, and so I know a lot about this. Anything that has to do with health and fitness and health clubs and all that stuff, I have a broad range of knowledge, but it's not at an expertise level, even whether it's personal training or training, it's not there anymore. I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but my point is there are some really good, really smart doctors that talk about hormone replacement therapy right here on YouTube that are way smarter than us and have way more experience and actually have patients that know what they're talking about. So do a TRT search right here on YouTube. You'll come up with some good stuff and some really good doctors.
And for everybody out there, Steve and I plan on following my personal journey. and we'll be reporting back to you probably every 3 to 4 weeks about where things are at, how things are going. Because in this first year, I have a plan on maintaining my health, checking my bloods, seeing what's going up and down with the doctors that I'm using, so that I will share with you what I'm going through so that you will know what to look for so you can also prepare for yourself.
All right, Brian, thanks for being with us. Thanks for your honesty and everything.
Take care, everybody.